Today I'm going to tell you about North Korea versus South Korea economics. North Korea, a communist country led by the dynasty politics, is one of the most isolated economies in the world today. The doctrines of Juche, which means self-reliance, and Sangang, military first, North Korea is often labeled an unreformed dictatorial economy. The nation that places its nuclear ambition over economic development has also time and again faced sanctions by the US and the European Union. The state receives much aid and concessionary assistance from the international bodies like the United Nations and a handful of countries, particularly China. The North Korean economy deeply relies on its ally mainland, China, for economic and diplomatic support. This dependence makes the North Korean policy of Juche impossible. It is estimated that North Korea's GNP, gross national product, nearly halved between 1990 and 1999. North Koreans' annual budget reports suggest state income roughly tripled between 2000 and 2014. By about 2010, external trade had returned to 1990 levels. In December of 2009, North Korea carried out a redenomination of its currency, capping the amount of North Korea's won that could be exchanged for the new notes and limiting the exchanges to a one-week window. A concurrent crackdown on markets and foreign currency use yielded severe shortages and inflation, forcing Pyongyang to erase the restrictions by February of 2010. In response to the sinking of the South Korean warship, the Cheongan, and the shelling of Yeonpyeong Island in 2010, South Korea's government cut off most aid, trade, and bilateral cooperation activities. In February of 2016, South Korea ceased to remain bilateral economic activity by closing the Kaesong industrial complex in response to North Korea's fourth nuclear test a month earlier. This nuclear test and another in September of 2016 resulted in two United Nations Security Council resolutions that targeted North Korea's foreign currency earnings, particularly coal and other mineral exports. The miracle of the Han River, as South Korea's spectacular economic growth is properly called, has transformed a nation that was once racked by political chaos and poverty into a trillion-dollar club economy. The country has clocked an average annual growth rate of 7%, experiencing contractions only during 2 years. South Korea became a part of the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, also known as the OECD, in 1996, which marked its development into a rich industrialized nation. In 2004, it joined the elite club of trillion-dollar economies, and today it ranks in the world's 12th largest economy in terms of gross domestic product, GDP. The economy of South Korea is multiple times, 36.7 times as per current figure, that of North Korea's in terms of GDP. According to 2013 figures, the GDP of North Korea is estimated at 33 billion, while that of South Korea is 1.19 trillion. The GDP per capita is 33,200 in South Korea, while it is 1,800 in the North, according to the CIA World Factbook. South Korea's trade volume was a gigantic 1.7 trillion in 2013. By comparison, North Korea reported a relatively minuscule 7.3 billion. In 2018 and beyond, South Korea will contend with gradually slowing economic growth in the 2 to 3% range, not uncommon for advanced economies. This could be partially offset by efforts to address challenges arising from its rapidly aging population, inflexible labor market, continued dominance of the chaebols, and heavy reliance on exports rather than domestic consumption. Socioeconomic problems also persist and include rising inequality, poverty among the elderly, high youth unemployment, long working hours, low worker productivity, and corruption. Thank you for watching this episode of Adventurous Kids.